Hi, I'm Ty Steinbrecher, Tech Service Manager at Boss Snowplow. The Boss Tech Service team is here to back you up. Today we're going to be talking about how to change out the hydraulic oil on a Snowrator mag. It's a pretty simple process of draining the fluid from the machine, changing out that hydraulic filter, adding new fluid to the machine, burping it through its system by simply running the plow, going through the hydraulic motions. Once that's all done, you're checking the fluid one more time, then you'll be back to plowing. Let's make sure you have the proper parts and tools necessary to get the job done. Now, let's get to work. Utilizing a pallet jack makes your life a whole lot easier with these Snowrators. Simply jack them up off the ground. Nice low profile jack that most shops have laying around. Start out by removing this tire so we can gain access to the drain plug on the hydraulic system. Take a couple wood blocks to support the machine right on this edge of this chassis here. Next we'll need to pull this cover off so we can access the hydraulic tanks. Two spring-loaded pins on each side. Rotate those 90 degrees as you pull them out. They'll stay in place. Tip the whole spreader assembly forward. Now we've gained access to the hydraulic filter and the fill top on the actual hydraulic reservoir. Next step will be taking a 8mm Allen wrench, locating the drain plug, the stainless plug underneath here from the hydraulic tank, loosening that up till you can take it out with your fingers. Take the drain plug or the drain pan, slide underneath. We'll loosen up that plug, drain all the fluid out. Now keep in mind this Snowrator takes about 3 gallons worth of fluid, so make sure you have an adequately sized drain pan. So once all the fluid's drained out, we'll put that plug back in, slide our drain pan out, tighten the plug back up. The whole hydraulic system contains about 4.5 gallons worth of fluid. However, on a simple hydraulic fluid change, you're only going to get about 3 gallons out of the system. Once we're done draining the fluid out of the tank, we can reinstall the tire. Make sure the cone side of the lug nuts are towards the rim so it properly centers. I'm using the impact to get the bolts started, but I'll actually finish torquing them later with the torque wrench. Before we torque it, we'll lower the machine back down to the ground. Got the torque wrench set to 75 foot-pounds. I'll torque these lug nuts down. Make sure we go on a alternating star pattern here. So we'll start off by taking these battery cables off the battery. Start with our negative cable here. That gives us some more room to get around these hoses, be able to pull that cover right off and access that filter. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and tackle this upper filter here. Get our drip tray ready just to catch any excess fluid once we take that filter off. Simple spin-on style automotive type filter. Notice you got some residual coming out, so try to contain that as much as possible. It's of course a little slick and a little dirty. I'll make sure to clean up that area real well before you put your new filter on. Just leave that rag there to catch anything excess. So we'll take our new filter here. Make sure that surface is clean, that the old O-ring is off the top. Take any residual oil, put it on that ring like you would with a normal car automotive filter. And we'll take this filter and thread it back on. Spin it up till it makes contact. Go another half turn beyond that to get to the proper tightness. Again, we'll take our rag and just kind of clean up everything in the area. Make sure we don't have leaks when we fire the machine back up. Next area to tackle is going to be pulling this cover off to access the in-tank filter. Simply spin the cover off. Be able to slide that filter out of the way. Now we can access this in-tank filter here. Before we do that, we'll make sure we have our drip pan ready. There's 2 tabs on this filter here. We'll work our hands in there and wiggle this filter back and forth. There's a O-ring seal on it, so it's kind of hard to get off of here. Once we pop it up, we have the filter head right on there. Now this filter, simple quarter turn. Pop that housing right off. You're going to maintain this part, you're going to replace the actual filter itself. So when you're installing the new filter, you're going to make sure you take the new filter, line up the tabs, push it down so it seats fully, rotate 90 degrees until this thing locks into place. So the filter in relation to the actual filter head rotates 90, locks in. There's also an O-ring on this filter head. Make sure that you have some hydraulic fluid on that O-ring prior to putting it back in. Just going to kind of lubricate things to make sure you can drop into the tank easier. So now we'll take our filter head, put it back in, and we'll kind of work it back and forth until it fully seats into the unit. There we go, seat it all the way in. We'll reinstall the filter head cover here. Threading fine threads here, so it takes a bit to get this cover to go down and get seated all the way. Next step is going to be topping off the hydraulic fluid. So after full change, you're going to take, like we mentioned earlier, about 3 gallons to fill this reservoir tank again. So when we fill it up, there's a nice dipstick on this fill cap. Dipstick does have 2 little indents on the side here, so you're going to fill the fluid level up until it reaches in between those 2 indents there. Take our funnel, place it into the fill port, and we'll start adding fluid. Clean up around that fill area before we put our cap back on. Thread the cap on, and at this point we would fire up the machine, run it through its hydraulic cycles, and check to make sure we have proper fluid level once all the air is burped out of the system. Now that we have our hydraulic fluid changed, we'll go and put our battery cables back on. Start with our positive cable. Put that on there. Snug that up. Make sure that rubber boot goes back on. And we'll attach our negative cable here. Cable's nice and tight. So to put the machine back together, I'm going to start out by rotating these spring pins 90 degrees so they lock back in place. It's a nice tapered slant on these clips here where the pins engage. So that way we can just take the whole unit, flip it back down, and it'll snap into place. We'll take the front cover, wiggle it down. Make sure the tabs are lined up in the bottom plate. So cover will go back on. We hope you found this video helpful today. If you have any questions, please contact the Boss Tech Service Team. We're here to back you up. Shop any Snowraider mag genuine parts and accessories at bossplow.com.